begin with some introductions with our speakers. So this workshop today is a collaboration with Aiya Collective. Aiya creates spaces to remember the emotional and geographic loss of Amiskatchewaskaken, or Edmonton's Chinatown. They are an intergenerational group of artists and Chinatown community speakers who are seeking to form openings for better futures. Our speakers for today are Brenda Lee, who is a registered acupuncturist and dietitian based in Edmonton, Alberta, who runs a practice called Vitamin Chi. She has a passion for helping people restore their health, and her practice is heavily influenced by the traditional knowledge of East Asian medicine. Born and raised in Canada, Brenda feels fortunate to have strong ties to her Chinese heritage. She speaks 3 dialects, Mandarin, Cantonese, and Teochew, which has allowed her to connect more deeply with her cultural background. Growing up, Brenda attended Chinese bilingual schools and frequently visited Chinatown for food, groceries, grandparent visits, classes, and summer camps. Our other speaker is Wai Ling Lennon, who is one of Aiya's aunties, a teacher, lifelong active community member, and grandma. For over 4 years, she was a president and a volunteer teacher for Student Volunteers Campus Community at the University of Alberta. Now retired from 25 years of teaching, she is an intercultural consultant with Edmonton Public Schools. Some notable projects include leading an oral history project with the Edmonton Chinese Library Foundation and with Aiya, a key contributor to the Wishes to the Chinatown Harbin Gate project, and led the Still in Chinatown community event. Wai Ling is a sharer of stories, language, and cultural practices. So now we'll let Brenda and Wai Ling take it away.
Thanks for the introduction, Coco. So I will just take a minute to share my screen here, and we'll get going. Okay. Oh, it's still loading. Okay, there we go. So thank you everyone for joining us, and welcome to today's workshop on practicing better futures with traditional Chinese medicine, reclaiming health in community. So my name is Brenda Lee, and I will be speaking with my co-facilitator, Wai Ling Lennon, we'll be collaborating with Center A Gallery today. So here we go. Go ahead, Wai Ling.
Yeah, before we go into our presentation, I would like to do land acknowledgement. So here it is. The land that I and Brenda are standing on is called Amiskatchewaskaken, Nahiyo, or Beaver Hills House. We live on the occupied land of Treaty 6 territory, a home and traditional meeting ground for many Indigenous peoples, including the Nahiyo, Cree, Dene, and Anasni Abe, Soto, Nakota Iska, Nakota Sioux, and Nasitapi Blackfoot peoples. We also acknowledge this as the native homeland and the home of one of the largest communities of Yingyue south of the 60th parallel, and Chinatown is hosted on the indigenous land. The land that I and Brenda are standing on is called Amiskatchewaskaken, Nahiyo, or Beaver Hills House. We live on the occupied land of Treaty 6 territory, a home and traditional meeting ground for many Indigenous peoples, including the Nahiyo, Cree, Dene, Anasni Abe, Soto, Nakota Iska, Nakota Sioux, and Nasitapi Blackfoot peoples. We also acknowledge this as the Métis homeland and the home of one of the largest communities of Yingyue south of the 60th parallel. Chinatown is hosted on indigenous land. Yeah, so we are talking about traditional land and knowledge, and we feel, Brenda and I and me, we feel that that Chinese medicine has so much history, thousands of history, and so much learning has taken place, and we want the knowledge to pass on. And then we talk about in Chinese families, a lot of times the mothers will prepare soups with different kinds of herbs and seeds and roots. And that kind of practice passed on for so many years. And we just hope that the custom will continue in many households. So we are saying that's the average folks practice. But then if you look at the traditional medicine, again, there's so many thousands of years of practice, so many workers have been made, and the practitioners and the herbalists, they practice and pass on the knowledge to another generation. And up to now, we actually have just abundance of information that we just say, I know that Brenda is really eager to share with you what she has learned and what she does with her patients. Yeah. And we find out, we feel between the indigenous culture and the Chinese culture, there are a lot of similarities of respecting the land, respecting the nature. And on the picture, you can see there's a medicine wheel within indigenous culture with 4 directions, and the sun is part of the solar system. And we have, let's see this. Yeah, the elements, the air, fire, water, and earth, which is similar to Chinese culture too. We have 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Yeah, so there's some similarities there. And I see the medicine wheels represent the alignment and the continuous interaction of the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual realities. The circle shape represents the interconnectivity of all aspects of one's life, including the connection with the natural world. The medicine wheels are frequently believed to be the circle of awareness of individual self, the circle of knowledge that provides the power we each have over our lives. So I think Brenda is going to talk about the yin and yang, which is
yeah. Thanks, Wai Ling. Thanks for the introducing some of the indigenous culture there. There's definitely a lot of similarities in between Chinese medicine and indigenous medicine. So yeah, like I'm sure many of you are familiar with this yin and yang diagram here. And actually, if we kind of go a little bit deeper into this, the yin and yang, the two, actually split into 4. So the yang can split into like a greater yang and a lesser yang. The yin can split into a greater yin and a lesser yin. So we actually end up with 4 kind of aspects of yin and yang that actually end up being something really similar to the 4 directions. So these actually represent the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. It also represents the 4 seasons. And medically, this has a very important application in Chinese medicine. And I actually use this on a regular basis in my own practice as well, in various ways. So there's a lot of overlap between different traditional cultures, and we really want to acknowledge the importance of traditional knowledge moving forward. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I
go ahead, Wai Ling.
So we're saying about the indigenous culture, they have 13 moons and or months. And I look into the descriptions. It's very interesting. It's really, really related to the season, the time of the year, and then with that, what would they do at that season? Related to their lives. And then I look at it with the Chinese 12 months that we have 24 solar terms, and I put some examples on the screen. For example, this year, May 6th is called Li Xia, the beginning of summer, and May 21st. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Okay, hello. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry for that. And then like May 21st, Xiaoman is like the plants are growing, but not quite ready for harvesting. And then June 6th is manzhong. That means that whatever you need to put in the soil, you better do it then. Otherwise, they won't get to full size for harvesting. And then June 21st is similar to the summer solstice. It's called arrival of summer. And then July 7th is Xiaoshu, I mean like little hot. And then 23rd is Dashu. I remember those two, Dashu, I grew up working with my mom selling vegetables on the street in the market. For Dashu, almost every family, all the mothers walk by, they always buy winter melon, because Dashu, you need to drink winter melon soup. Either is savory or sweet to help your body to adjust to the seasonal hotness. So it's really, really related to how we live. And I know that some people still observe this 24 solar terms in the daily lives.
Yeah, it really gives us an indication for how the energy is shifting between the seasons and steps that we can take in our daily life to kind of live in harmony with those changes.
Yes, definitely. Okay. I'm just going quickly the outline for this afternoon. Brenda is going to give us some information about traditional Chinese medicine, and we'll talk about the past and present of Chinatown, and then culture, identity, community, how they're related with traditional Chinese medicine. And we want to share some ideas about self-care, and then related to anti-oppression. And then with that, making our lives better in the future with TCM. And then we have Q&A question that time, okay.
Okay, so we'll start off with some acupressure, kind of to get everyone, grounded, and we'll start with some self-care. So for those of you who are new to acupuncture, I'll just take a minute to explain. So the first point that we're going to do is called TH7. And basically the TH, it just means that that's the name of the channel. So in the human body, there are a lot of different channels that run throughout the body. So for example, this one in the right-hand photo here, this channel runs through the back of the arm. This one is the TH, the triple heater channel. And then along each channel, there's points, acupuncture points. And so the number 7 here just represents kind of the order of the points. So that would be kind of the English naming system for acupuncture points. In Chinese, TH7 is called Hui Zong. So we also have the pinyin here as well. So yeah, why don't we just go ahead and get started with finding this point and start doing some acupressure. And then after that, I will show you guys, kind of explain what this point means. Okay, so I'll get everyone to kind of, bring your wrist up. And then all you have to do is find this crease at your wrist here. And then we're just going to take 4 fingers and then we put it under the crease. So once you find that 4-finger kind of distance, then you just mark it. So that's about 4 fingers below the wrist, okay? And then we're just going to take that finger and then we're just going to slide it over to the pinky side of the forearm. And then there's going to be like a bone here. So you just want to be right kind of on the side of that bone there. And once you find the spot, you're just going to apply some pressure. And then you can kind of apply either like in a circular motion, or you can kind of go like a back and forth or up and down motion, and then kind of feel around in that area to see if you can find like a nice achy spot. So you want to find kind of like a kind of like an achy sensation. It shouldn't be uncomfortable. It should just kind of feel a little bit like sore. And then we're just gonna massage that, and I'll get you all to take a nice deep breath in through the nose and a nice breath out through the nose. And so with acupressure, you don't have to be perfect. You just kind of have to get into that area, find the sore spot, and then massage it for about a minute. And take deep breaths while you do it. So while we massage this point, so TH7, hui, zong, hui means like to gather or to unite or to get together. And zong means ancestors. So this basically together, that is kind of like an assembly of ancestors, or it kind of talks about our united ancestral essence. And so one of the things I want to mention here is that, we often know that acupuncture is good for a lot of physical problems, right? But it can also work on kind of a psycho-emotional and even on a spiritual level. So this is an example of just kind of, this richness and depth we have in Chinese medicine and Chinese culture, that, acupuncture points even can work on, different levels. So on a physical level, this point can benefit the ears. And the reason for this is that if we look at the TH triple heater channel here, it runs kind of from the hand up the arm, and then it kind of comes up here and wraps around the ear. So a lot of points on this channel can treat ear problems. So, hearing problems or tinnitus, things like that, you can definitely try massaging this point more often. And then kind of on that spiritual level, massaging this point can help to connect us to our ancestors and help us feel connected to our lineage, and so that we can tap into our deeper resources as well. Wai Ling, did you have something to say for here?
Say, good job.
Oh, thank you.
Explain that how this is connected to the ears.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, my finger there, how does it help? So
it's acupuncture can be pretty interesting. A lot of times, if we're treating a headache, we're gonna, poke a point on the foot or something. So it's very much about understanding the channels and where they travel. And so, you don't necessarily have to poke the ear to treat the ear. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Okay, I'll continue on here.
Okay, I'm going to get closer, and because I'm going to tell you a story. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, the beautiful flower on the screen is called saffron. Many years ago, when I was an infant, my mother had a very scary experience. I usually cried a lot when I was an infant, but one night I wasn't crying as much. And the old lady next room, because it was a house with 2 rooms, middle of the night, knocked at the door to wake up my mother and say, something wrong with baby Ling. Baby Ling is not crying tonight. You better check on her. So my mom felt my forehead, and I was burning hot. And she was really scared, in the middle of the night, and she did not know what to do. And she just, picked me up and went to see a doctor. But it was nighttime, all the shops were closed. But knowing that, my mom already lost 1 baby before me, and she could not wish to lose another one, and she was in a panic mode. So she went to a herbalist shop, and she just pounded at the door. And Dr. Yip came to the door and took a look at me. And he told my mom it was too late to prescribe any medicine, no time to prepare any tea, for baby. So he gave my mom this saffron, and told my mom to make some tea to feed me. I don't know how much my mom fed me. She just told me that the incident, but luckily I was saved. And I have something here. I don't know if I can. If I put on the camera, you can see. This is how they look like, the dry ones. Can you see?
Can you move it up a little bit, Wai Ling?
Up.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So that's how it looks like when it's dried. And when they purchase them, it came like a pouch, and it is very fine. And apparently, you only need a few pieces each day to drink it. Apparently, it's good for your skin. But at the same time, my mom told me I need to be careful if you don't know the quantity. If you happen to be pregnant, you might abort your baby by accident. So that brings the point that the Chinese medicine, you need to know what you're doing if you're doing some really special herbs. But today we're going to introduce something very safe and household herbs and seeds that you can use. But that's the story my mom told me. This flower actually saved my life.
That's amazing, Wai Ling, that these little fine red threads of flower can be life-saving.
Yeah, incredible.
Thanks for sharing. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. We're going to have some participant discussion now. So everyone, feel free to type into the chat box if you've ever had any personal experiences with Chinese medicine yourself, or maybe a family member or a friend who has had some kind of experience. Let us know, and we're interested in what everyone has to say.
Yeah, we understand that Chinese medicine is so mysterious, especially in the media. Sometimes they portray it as using animal parts. I think there's a lot of miscommunications. People don't know what certain things are for. But then on the other hand, I'm not sure if certain animal parts can really help certain ailment. I don't have the background.
Yeah, we have someone who went to a foot acupuncturist as a kid for weight loss. And we have a student of acupuncture who remembers his grandma getting acupuncture. Oh, wow. TCM cured my eczema.
Oh, we'd like to learn more about that.
Herbal concoctions for period cramps. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Chinese medicine seems to be quite helpful for a lot of like chronic conditions that Western medicine might not really have solutions for. We have someone who had a terrible cough for months, and inhalers didn't work, and the herbalist fixed the cough in a week. Yeah. And then, yeah, lots of experience, lots of years with TCM. Combination. Okay. Wow. So yeah, the eczema was helped through a combination of acupuncture, herbs, and diet. Yeah, skin problems can be quite tough to treat. So oftentimes it needs to be like a multi-pronged approach using a bunch of different ways. But yeah, that's really cool. Korean, your wife who is Korean pricks my fingertips if I have indigestion. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah, thanks everyone for sharing your stories with TCM. Sometimes with TCM, these personal stories are really powerful because we don't have necessarily like a lot of scientific like research articles sometimes. I mean, there is quite a bit of scientific research now, but very often, people are still skeptical and they often kind of rely on personal experience before people kind of believe it. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Did you have anything to add, Wai Ling?
No, I really appreciate everybody sharing their experiences.
Great. Okay, let's see here. So yeah, now we're just gonna, talk about TCM kind of in early Chinatowns back in the days of early Chinese settlers.
Yeah, we were talking about Chinese people grew up with traditional, the earlier settlers from China. They grew up using Chinese medicine. So when they first came to Canada, very logically, they looked into, Chinese herbal shop to get something to help them maintain their health, or when they're sick, get the doctor, they prescribe them some formula so they can make some tea. And we're saying that's one of the reasons that Chinatown becomes such a hub, because people come down to get groceries, they come down to get the medicine, and also it's a place to catch up with news. And we were saying, we know how the early Chinese settlers, which treated the long hours of labor, they got really low wages. Probably they were not able to seek a Western doctor to get the service when they were ill. So many people really, they come down to Chinatown. And in those days, we're talking about 19th century, 20th century, there were quite a few herbal shops in Chinatown, but things have changed quite a bit now. I think Brenda is going to share a story with us about the pictures, right?
Yeah, so if we look at the pictures here, this is a Chinese medicine clinic in Lethbridge. It's called Bong'an Tong. And this is actually my uncle's father. He opened this clinic. So his name was Dr. Wai Ling, and he started this clinic in the 1920s in Lethbridge, Alberta. And he was one of the first Chinese herbalists in Canada. And he was really good. So, they had a really big family, and none of them ever had to go to the hospital because they knew how to take care of themselves with Chinese medicine. And people from all over the country would come and seek his care. As far as Toronto, they would come here all the way to Lethbridge just to find this doctor. And he treated everything, from the common cold to measles to, some more serious diseases. He would treat it all using Chinese medicine. And he also treated a lot of non-Chinese patients as well, a lot of Caucasian patients. They also found it very helpful for them. And so, unfortunately, at the time, Chinese medicine wasn't really that well accepted, and people still didn't really believe it. So, nobody wanted to learn it. And eventually he did pass on and wasn't able to kind of pass his knowledge on to anyone else. But on that note, this clinic, it also talks about the importance of TCM in Chinatown, especially in the pioneer days, because this actually served as a really important gathering place for a lot of Chinese people. So, for instance, a lot of doctors like Dr. Liang, he helped a lot of other Chinese people at the time write letters. There was a lot of illiteracy. So almost everyone's mailing address would be at this clinic, and then he would help them write letters to send back home to China. And, you know, people would come and they would play mahjong and come and like drink tea. And like it was just a gathering place where, yeah, they would come and read newspapers. So it was a really important kind of a central hub for the Chinese community at the time as well. And this takes us to kind of Chinatown now in the present day.
Yeah, like I mentioned that with the Western medicine, different generation, just like Brenda mentioned, some people don't want to learn because they don't know how does it work. Actually, you find less and less herbal shops in Vancouver, Chinatown, I noticed, in Edmonton for sure. We used to have a few herbalists, they stationing at a shop. Some of them, they have retired and we don't have new ones to replace them. So some people like me is kind of like, oh, where can I go now? It's like, you know, I know the TCM helps me with my health. It was amazing. Another story, one time I got some skin problem on my face and I just don't know what to do. And the herbalist gave me some formula. This is interesting, has snake skin and a lot of ginger and some other things. And it healed my skin itchiness. Yeah, that's interesting. So going back to nowadays with less herbal shops in town, but you can still go buy something ready-made. Can you see?
A little lower, Wai Ling. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I bought this thing as in a shop, same name as the one Brenda mentioned, based in Edmonton, Boan. And this is something they put together in the shop. So things a little bit fresher, I think, and bigger than some other ones that you can buy in the grocery store. In the grocery store, you can buy something already put together, came from China. It's cheaper. The basic ingredient is similar, but they're not as big. Yeah, not as big. So they sometimes when you're busy and you don't have time to go to the herbal shop, and if you happen to be in a Chinese grocery store, you can pick up something like that at Timberland, and they have a lot of different kind of packages for making soup. You can add any meat that you like. So that's convenient, and that's what you can see in the contemporary Chinatown.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that Chinatown is also a really important place for knowledge to be passed down from one generation to the next. So like in Chinese culture and many traditional cultures, there's a lot of emphasis on kind of learning from our elders and, you know, making sure that knowledge gets passed on to the younger generation. And so actually one of the reasons why I became interested in studying Chinese medicine is because when I was in junior high, my mom actually went to Chinatown to, learn in a TCM hobby class with a TCM doctor in Edmonton's Chinatown. And then she did this for a few years, and she would come home and she would actually teach me about the basics of TCM, you know, like the yin and yang and the 5 elements and basic herbs, basic acupuncture points. And I remember often hearing her reciting like medical rhymes. So in Chinese culture, it's really important like that people, there's a lot of things to memorize. So they have to make these like memory devices, like poems and rhymes to help people remember. So I actually wanted to share one of these rhymes. So this is from the Ming Dynasty. It was written in this book called the Zhenjiu Dacheng, the Great Compendium of Acupuncture and Moxibustion. And basically this rhyme here, this really short rhyme, is kind of like this a little way to remember some of the most important acupuncture points. So it goes like this. So the title is 四种穴歌. That's like the song of the 4 chief points. So 肚腹三里流. So this is like if you have abdominal problems, you would use the point stomach 36. 腰背委中求. If you have back problems, then select the point bladder 40. 头项寻列穴. If you have neck or head kind of issues, then use the point lung 7. 面口合谷收. If you have face or mouth kind of problems, you would select large intestine 4. So they had a lot of these poems that, you know, rhyme, and they're just a good way to remember medical knowledge. And yeah, this was a really traditional way to kind of learn the medicine. And that brings me to the next acupressure point here. This one is in a similar location to the previous one. So if we kind of get our hand up again, this one's called SI6. So this is on the SI, on the small intestine channel. It's the 6th point. So this one's really easy. When you put up your hand like this, if you go to the pinky side of the wrist, you'll find kind of like a big protruding bone right about here. And if we put our finger on that bone and then we just slide over the bone to the middle of the wrist, kind of right about here, just on the edge of the bone there. Yeah, you'll find this little divot. So just press on that and see if you can get like a little bit of that achy sensation. And so this point is called Yang Lao. Yang Lao means to nourish elders. And so the physical kind of properties of this point, you know, it can help with shoulder and arm pain. So this channel goes kind of up and around the shoulder and arm area, so it can be really helpful for that. And it's also good for the eyes. So this channel, it kind of goes up to the shoulder and then it goes up to the eyes. So this point helps with, like, you know, if you have anything like blurred vision or like dim vision or like painful dry eyes, anything like that, you can try pressing on this point. And the name of this point also highlights the importance of elders in Chinese culture. So when we press on this point, like, we can kind of, it brings us the guidance from our elders and helps us to see life from a deeper perspective. Okay. Oh, okay. And then there's another point here. So this one is like kind of in the similar theme. This one is SP4, Gong Sun. So I'm not going to show you my foot. You can find it on your own foot. But basically what we'll do is I'll get you to start by putting your finger kind of right along the inside edge of the big toe. Yeah, just on the inside edge of the big toe here. And then if you kind of keep sliding it down, there'll be a big bone in this area. And after this big bone, there'll be like a little like hollow here. So after you get to this hollow, just keep sliding along the bone, and then you'll hit some resistance here. And that's where this point is. That's spleen 4, SP4, Gong Sun. And so this point is really good for digestive problems. So if you have anything like poor appetite or, you know, like bowel issues, constipation or diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, you can try pressing on this point. And kind of on that more like spiritual level, this point, so Gong Sun, you probably have heard that like Gong or Gong Gong means like grandfather, and then Sun means grandchild. So it kind of suggests the continuity from one generation to the next. And pressing on this point can kind of help us to inherit the wisdom of our grandparents and our ancestors. Okay.
Yeah, here comes a little bit story time. We would talk about the Chinese medicine. It's so long ago. So we would like to show you a few names or get you acquainted with this Dr. Hua Tuo. He was amazing. He has expertise in many things, not just the plants. He can also operate if need to conduct a surgery. And he was, when you look at it, he lived in 145 to 208 years. So it's like at least 1800 years ago. He used scalpels, and he would use fire to heat the blade so that it's sterilized before he applied it on the patient. And then whenever he was done, he would soak it in wine water. I believe it's wine, but I don't know what the percentage is, but it's like some kind of alcohol to keep it sterilized. So when I read it, I thought, oh, this is amazing. And, you know, in addition to what I have learned, you know, from a childhood, that Hua Tuo is a doctor. He can heal anything. But sadly, he was living in these three kingdoms in the Chinese history. Three kingdoms in those days is the Wei, Shu, Wu, and then with the country Wei, the ruler Cao Cao. It's interesting when you put in pinyin, it sounds like, you know, two words are the same, but actually they are two different characters. The first Cao is the last name, second one is his given name. He was a very bad ruler. He wanted to keep Hua Tuo to himself and his family. So he summoned him to the capital to work for him. So after Hua Tuo did his job, and he didn't really want to serve such a bad person. His calling is for the average public people. That's why he liked to travel and heal people in difficult situations. So he lied to Cao Cao and say, oh, my wife is sick. I need to go home. I need to go home. So he went home, and then he didn't go back to the capital. So after a while, Cao Cao suspected something and went to the hometown and found out that Hua Tuo actually was lying. So he arrested him and put him in jail. And the same thing, he was threatening him, okay, I need you to work for me. If you don't, then I will keep you in jail. And Hua Tuo was very strong and you know, refused working for the ruler. But it's very sad for him because he was actually tortured in the jail over some time. And he finished a book about some medicine he was going to give to the jail guard. But the jail guard was afraid being found out and he may be executed. So he didn't accept the book. Sadly, the book later on just got lost. Yeah. So if sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, that daughter is so good," it's like 华佗再生, or literally meaning 华佗return to earth, because this daughter has such a superb skills and knowledge in Chinese medicine. And this daughter, Zhang Zongjing, he was also in the Three Kingdoms era. And he saw many people die of typhoid. So he spent many years studying the patients and make records and working with other herbalists. And he wrote a book called Shanghan Zha Bing Ren. In English, they put it as a treatise on cold pathogenic and miscellaneous diseases. It's like different diseases related to respiratory system. Sadly, there was very little known about him, other than he was he lived in Changsha, Hunan, China. And the next one. Okay, a lot of people have seen this picture on different medicine packaging. Li Shizhen, he was in a different dynasty. He was in Ming Dynasty, and he has collected over thousands of herbs and roots and documented them, giving up the form, the shapes, the quality. And he actually spent 27 years to write this book, 本草纲目. And I have a copy, this more modern version. Can you all see?
Yeah.
So like this book actually have different versions. So when I went to China and I saw it in the bookstore, I was very excited. So I said, I have to get one because I like to learn. I want to show you. We will be talking about this. I suppose it's a part of a plant by her. It's a lily. Actually, most of you probably are familiar with the plant lily, but you didn't know that the roots can be used as medicine, and the bulb can be used as medicine, and it's very good. So that's how the book is. Like have different sessions telling people like how to use it, when how much to use it, what is that good for, and how to identify it. So like you may be able to pick up a copy in Chinatown bookstore. It's not expensive and it's kind of interesting to read, but it's only in Chinese. I don't know. Oh, actually, I think they have it in English too. It has been translated in different languages. So if you're interested to learn more, this could be a book that you like to explore. The Mandarin name is 本草纲目. Yeah. So yeah, collection of plants and roots and flowers that you can use into herbs. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been translated into English. There's a really good reference material in English. It's called Chinese Materia Medica, I think, and it's like this thick. So they really managed to collect all the information and translate it. So we're really fortunate now that we have lots of English kind of reference materials for Chinese medicine.
I'm very excited about how traditional Chinese medicine being acknowledged by the world. The World Health Organization also recognized the value of this body of knowledge. And it's in different languages. Right? So whoever is interested to learn, they can have a source to find out more. Yeah.
All right. Wai Ling, should we continue?
Yeah. But before that, we just want to touch base with how everybody's feeling. How's everybody's feeling? You want to?
How's everyone doing? Let us know in the chat or Q&A.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's continue. So we talk about different things, right? We talk about the history of traditional Chinese music, medicine. I don't know why the M word always came as the word music. The traditional Chinese medicine is very, very valuable, and it's also very easy to assess, in a way, because you can get something, not a medicine form, but knowing what vegetables, what roots, what squash to eat, how to put things together, then you can maintain your good health, right? So we put together this poll for you. 牛的青山在，哪怕没柴烧. Literally meaning, we use it quite often when somebody experiences some kind of setback in life, maybe a business failure or revolution, or a project, you say, okay, yeah, we didn't make it this time, we failed this time. But if you, take a deep breath, make sure your health is in good condition, then you can continue to pursue your goal. So literally meaning, say, if there are trees on the mountains, okay, you don't need to worry about no firewood to use, because there are trees on the mountain. There's so many for you to use, right? But if there are no trees, then there's no firewood. Of course, nowadays we know with climate change, trees are extremely important for everyone. So here, I just want to encourage people, if you have a house, you have a yard, make sure you plant lots of trees.
Thanks, Wai Ling. That's a very hope-inspiring kind of saying. I always want to learn more of these sayings, so I appreciate you sharing this. And now Wai Ling is going to tell us about some of her favorite soups.
Yeah, I have 3 different kinds here. The first one is lotus root. You can add pork and red dates. And I will show you how they look like. And the second one, in Cantonese, we call ting bo learn, and it's a very calming soup. And you can cook it with pork or chicken, or if you don't want to have meat, you can make it like a sweet soup and then add an egg to it. And the last one is a licorice chrysanthemum, honeysuckle tea. That one doesn't take too long. It's just like bring it to boil, steep it for maybe 15-20 minutes. Or what I do, I just put it in my thermos with hot water and make it steep for a few hours. So I'm going to show you the pictures. On the right hand side, that's the lily, very beautiful, and the leaves, that's what they use for sticky rice in the dim sum restaurant, because the fragrance from the leaves is really enticing. And then the roots of the plant, like it's interesting. It's again, you can cook it with meat, or you can cook it just with black fingers. Just make a sauce to go with it, or you can. In Chinese New Year, we have like candied lotus root, and that has a meaning of a couple togetherness, right? So it has the cultural meaning, and it also has a very good for health, and it's very tasty. Yeah. And the dates in the middle, this red dates is very useful. A lot of people actually have this at home all the time. When Catherine had a baby, my daughter, so I make her tea with red date and goji berries, and also dry dragon eye fruits, and that is really good for new mothers. So I made that for her to drink for a couple of weeks. And the thing I want to share is that it's not just me making it. I learned it from other grandmothers who prepare the tea to the daughter-in-law or to their daughters. So if you go to a herbal shop, and they actually have a very large quantity, you can buy the red date. And then for average people, men or women can use it. You can slice it, put maybe 3 in a cup, and then add boiled water and egg steep, and then you can drink it throughout the day. It's so easy, very easy. I actually remember my dad in his 40s. He was low in energy, and he would ask my mom to prepare the red day tea for him. Yeah, so it's good for men or women.
Yeah, and I'll just take a minute just to kind of talk about the Chinese medicine properties of these foods. So lotus root is something that can help to clear heat from the body, that cools down our blood, helps to generate more fluids, and it also stops bleeding. So it can be really good for if you're feeling like thirsty, or if you like have a nosebleed or symptoms like that, then this is something that's kind of like nice and moistening and kind of helps bring back some fluids to help with that. And then the red date is just kind of like a nice like energy booster, like Wai Ling said. So it helps to build our qi and blood, and kind of, keeps our spleen and stomach strong. And it also calms down the mind. So it can help with anxiety and things like that.
Yeah, I want to show you this picture because when I was in China many years ago, I was surprised to see you can actually buy the lotus seed in this almost like a capsule, right? Yeah, from the lotus plant. So in China you can buy and you get fresh lotus seed, but here you might be able to buy from grocery store and they kind of pre-frozen or something. In the herbal shop and the Chinese grocery store, you can buy the dry ones. Yeah. And maybe Brenda can share the qualities of lotus seeds.
Yeah, lotus seed is a really beautiful herb. It's very like gentle, safe for everyone to have. And it's kind of unique because it kind of influences two major organs in the body. So one is that it enters the heart, and the other is it enters the spleen. So the heart in Chinese, it also includes the mind. So when something like nourishes the heart, it often helps to calm the mind and just helps you like relax and not get too uptight and think too much. So there's that aspect. And then also it enters the spleen, which is kind of a major organ for digestion. So this also helps to support a healthy gut. And it's really interesting that, this herb, it kind of helps with that like mind and gut connection that, modern science is just starting to discover that, oh, wow, like there's a lot of relationship between the mind and the gut. But actually, I think the Chinese already knew about that many, many years ago, thousands of years ago. And they were using these kinds of foods to help support that.
I found this picture, and that's exactly what I'd like to share with you. That's they are the major ingredients in the Qingbolan soup. Yeah. So the on the top row from the left, the first one is sasam. I think it also have the function to lower the heat. I think, yeah. But Brenda can elaborate a little bit. And the second one looks like it's a dragon eye fruit. And the third one is yokjok, which is the roots of the lily plant. And the fourth one on the top, the white one, is called wai san or cassava, or some people call it Chinese yam. I found it. At the bottom, that one's in Cantonese, I heard my mom call it qi san. But when I look up the Mandarin sign, it's qian shi, which is like a different sign. The one in the middle, that's dry lotus seed. And then the bottom right, that's the dry lily bulb. This, like I say, you can make it with meat, just have it plain, no meat, and add sugar. It's still very tasty and it's really good for your body. And then Brenda's going to tell us more about it.
Yeah. So Wai Ling, you touched on the shashin earlier. So yeah, like in the top left here, this one has similar properties as the yuzhu, this one. And basically these two are both helps to like clear heat. It also helps to generate fluids. So anything like, if you have like a dry cough, dry mouth, sore throat, thirst, these are really good for that. Kind of helps to moisten the lung, basically, these two. The Shashan is a little bit cooler, and then the Yuju is kind of more gentle. But overall, this is very gentle formula, like herbal soup that anyone can have. And then, yeah, we have the longan yolk, the longyan rou, like the dried longyan fruit. And this one is really good for like building the blood. So if people like have like a blood deficiency, so sometimes that can show up as like an iron deficiency, or sometimes it can just show up as like, they're pale, or they kind of have like, withered nails and their hair isn't very good. That means they might have blood deficiency. So this, like the longan fruit, can help to boost the blood of the body. And so then there's a few that kind of go together. I talked about the lotus seed a little bit earlier. It helps to tonify the spleen and the heart. The Chinese yam and the this qianshi is also called Chinese foxnut, I think. So Chinese foxnut, Chinese yam, and lotus seed, these three can help to tonify the spleen and stomach. So they all help to support a healthy digestive system, and just help to your gut function well. And then lastly, we have this is called baihe, the lily bulb. And I'll touch on this one a little bit more later, but this one is a really good herb, also just nice and moistening kind of herb for the lungs.
And I like to add, like for Chinese weddings, we always have something like with the lotus seed, linji, because the sign is like with children, right? Bahao is like 100 things together, meaning harmony. So in the basket for Chinese wedding, we will buy something like that from the groom's family to give to the bride's family. Yeah, so not only they're delicious, they're good for your health, but culturally they have such a good meaning.
Yeah, they're symbolic.
In this picture, a few years ago, a friend suggested, oh, let's go pick up some of the ingredients from the shop, mostly used in Timbo-leung. So that's what we did. So each bowl has a different ingredients, just like we showed in the last slide. And then we just talk about the qualities, and everybody get a bowl, and then we just pick up, just have the feel, and then they got some, and then each person took their portion home to make tea or soup. It was really fun, and everybody really appreciated it. And the shop that where we purchased the ingredients, they were really open. They said, oh, you can always come back and we can teach you more. So that's how I feel a lot of shopkeepers, they're willing to share their knowledge with customers. So you just go in, and when they're not busy, they can spend more time to explain and show you what they carry. And this one, I drank a lot these last few months. On the left, the top left, there's some kind of roots. And then on the plate is sliced. That's the licorice. And on the right, that's a chrysanthemum. And then honeysuckle at the bottom. I don't know how it works, but somebody told me, especially in the early days of pandemic, the COVID-19, the combination of these three, you make tea, you drink it, and then can bring the heat down in your system, especially if people have a fever. But I find that even for me, sometimes I feel kind of irritated, and I don't know, maybe I didn't get enough sleep, or maybe I feel like there's some phlegm, in my throat. I'll make myself this tea, this combination. It's really easy to do. But after I drink it, for a few times, I feel very relaxed, and feel like more energy in a good way. And with that, then I'll be happier, right? And then we all know if you're happy, your body will be happy. So these are really good things to have in your house.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Wai Ling, why it kind of helped you calm down and feel happier. I can kind of discuss the properties of these herbs. So the licorice here, it's really good for cough. So this one helps to moisten the lungs and stop coughing. It also helps to dissolve phlegm too. So if you feel phlegmy, that can help. The chrysanthemum flower here, this one, it also clears heat, but it's unique in that it also helps with the liver specifically. So in Chinese medicine, the liver has a few different aspects to it. One is that the liver is often related to like stuck emotions. So if we feel frustrated or we feel irritable, that can often indicate like the liver is out of balance. Also, the liver has to do with the eyes. So drinking chrysanthemum tea can help basically like with eye health. So if you have dry eyes or red eyes, this can be quite helpful. And then finally, the honeysuckle. This one also clears heat, but a little bit different. This one also has this ability for detoxification. So it's commonly used for things like sores and boils and skin eruptions and pimples and things like that, because those skin issues are often related to, the body's trying to get rid of toxicity somehow through the skin. So this honeysuckle can kind of help with those conditions. But together, all of these are very good for clearing heat and just, getting that heat out of the lung system to help with cough and sore throat.
I wonder if anybody has any questions after this. You can look at it.
Yeah. Like you mean like now or in a bit?
No, after this one. Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
Really thirsty.
And then I'll just introduce like a tonic for anti-oppression. So if we're kind of talking about, people doing anti-oppression work, are there any kind of specific tonics that can help with that? And so this soup is called lily bulb and egg sweet soup. It's really simple. It's basically just lily bulb, which we touched on earlier, and then egg together. So lily bulb is basically like the bulb or the root of the lily flower. And then you can find it in supermarkets fresh and vacuum sealed, or you can find it dried as well in like herbal shops. And then it's called bai he in Chinese. So like Wai Ling mentioned earlier, bai means like 100, he kind of means like gatherings. So and that name comes from, if we look at the fresh bulb here, we can see all these little petals. There's literally hundreds of these petals kind of clustered together to form this bulb. So it kind of represents, like a sense of community. And that's, something that we really need when we're doing kind of this anti-oppression work, is really to come together. Another important property of this herb is that it nourishes yin. And that might seem like a really like abstract term, like yin, but I'll just explain what that means. So I'm sure everyone has heard of like yin and yang, and basically those are just relative terms. So for instance, yang is often things like heat, and then yin is like cold, yang is light, yin is dark. Yang is dry, yin is wet, kind of thing, like if you kind of get that idea. And nowadays in modern society, we have way too much yang. Yang is like activity, movement. it's always go, go, go. Everyone is very mentally stimulated all the time. So then we end up with way too much yang and not enough yin. So a herb like this can help to bring a little bit more yin into our system to help us find, that balance between yin and yang. And yeah, we also need to get more of that like rest and recuperation to cultivate more yin as well. And another property of this herb is it calms the spirit. So basically that's like if you have things like anxiety or insomnia, this can be really helpful for that. Actually, like in my family, if anyone's having trouble sleeping, we'll often have a bowl of this before bed, and it actually works quite well to help you sleep. So you can give that a try. And then we just combine it with eggs, which is really simple. It's just like a simple, like kind of symbol of, like birth and fertility and longevity. It's just an auspicious kind of thing to symbolize like new beginnings. So together, this just creates a really like nice and light tasting soup, and you can add a little bit of like rock sugar to sweeten it.
I noticed
Okay.
the egg
Yeah.
is like egg drop. So you beat the egg with a fork.
Yeah. And then you
not the whole egg.
Right. Yeah. You would plop the inside of the egg in here and then stir it around to get these nice kind of thready patterns.
So if I use a dry bai he, so how long do I need to cook? Like half an hour?
Yeah, I would say about half an hour. You would probably have to soak it first and then cook it for another half an hour.
And you mentioned about the egg has such an interesting meaning, like birth, but also the protein.
Yeah, that's right.
I have egg for breakfast. My doctor told me that, have an egg every day, so you got the protein to get you going. So this when you drink it at night, would that make the body work harder because you're resting and you need to digest the food?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you probably would not want to take it like immediately before bed, maybe like at least an hour before bed. And I think it depends on the person, but generally if it's just like an egg cracked into a soup, it's quite easy to digest. And then, I would say just kind of monitor your own reaction. I think most people would tolerate it fine, but if it seems to like cause you indigestion, then maybe don't take it at bedtime.
In fact, it could be just like dessert after dinner, right?
Oh, yeah. That would be a good time to have it as well. All right. Okay, we have another acupuncture point relating to calming the spirit. This is PC7, Da Ling. This one is super easy to find. So once again, we'll get our hand, and then all you have to do is find that crease here in the wrist. So we're looking at our palms, and then you just have to find the middle of the crease, and that's the point. If you want to be really exact, you can find the two tendons that run down the forearm here, and then you want to be right in between the two tendons on the crease there. But not everyone has two tendons. Some people just have one. So just go in the middle of the crease and it's right there, and just apply some pressure there. So this point, Dali means great tumulus. So the tumulus is kind of like this photo in the corner here, where back in the ancient times, in kings and rulers and important people, they were buried in these really grand kind of imperial tombs. And so this point also kind of speaks to a connection to people that have come before us. And so it has really good properties for calming the spirit. it clears heat from the heart. So some of you may have heard, like maybe your parents say, like 生火 or like 心火, like, oh, you have too much going on, you have a lot of heat in your heart or heart fire. And that can manifest as insomnia, anxiety, even heart palpitations, or feeling sad. So this point is very often used for these kinds of like psycho-emotional issues. So yeah, you can give that a try if you need. And yeah, like when you're standing, the point kind of meaning is that like when you're standing on this hill, you're able to see the bigger picture and have deeper insights from your ancestors. Okay, now we are going to do a quick Qigong exercise. For those of you who have not heard of Qigong, it is basically like a health exercise, where people work on kind of stretching and strengthening the body in different ways. But most importantly, we are building up the qi of the body. So what is qi? I feel like a lot of people have different definitions for this, but the analogy that I like to use for qi is if we imagine a balloon, and imagine this balloon is like, inflated, very big, and it's round and shiny, and, it's bouncy, and it's full of vitality, and it's ready to take off. See, that would be, if you imagine a person like that, that would be someone who has an abundance of qi, that they've just got all this vitality in them. And if we take that balloon and we let out some of the air, now it's going to be a little bit wrinkly. It feels like it's kind of limp. It's just collapsed onto the ground. And so if we imagine a person who's kind of a little bit deflated, they're tired, they have, a weak voice, those things, that's someone who is, we would call qi deficient. They have a qi deficiency. And the point of Qigong is basically to help build up that qi so that we can have more of that vitality, which is important for good health. So we're going to do the exercise that is from a sequence called the 八段锦. This is one of the most famous kind of Qigong practices in the world, and it's made up of 8 different movements, but we're just going to do the first movement together, just to give you a taste of what Qigong is. So the first movement is called 双手托天理三焦. So basically it translates to 2 hands holding up the heavens to regulate the 3 burners. So if we see this illustration here, this guy is doing the first movement. And basically he is, holding up his hands to the sky. And then the 3 burners basically refers to the 3 areas of the torso. So we have the upper burner, which is like the heart and the lungs, the middle burner, which is the spleen and the stomach, and the lower burner, which is like the kidneys, bladders, intestines. And they each have their own functions. So the upper burner is more about like distributing and dispersing fluids throughout the body. The middle burner is about digesting and absorbing nutrients and transporting them to where they need to go. And finally, the lower burner is more about separating like the good stuff from the waste products. And a lot of Qigong exercises will kind of focus on regulating these 3 burners because it basically encompasses all of our organ systems, and we want them to be communicating and kind of connecting smoothly. So without further ado, I am going to show you how to do this. I'm going to pause screen sharing. Can you guys see like my video better, or is it still a little thumbnail?
Where is the
Still a little thumbnail.
It's still a little thumbnail. Let me see what happens if I pin myself. Do you see like a bigger screen of me?
No,
No.
I still see your share screen right now.
Okay. How about now?
You're still on top. I think you might have to stop
Okay.
sharing if you want yourself to be in like the main screen.
Okay, let me stop sharing. And then how about now?
Yeah, we can see you now.
Okay, great. So yeah, I will just, so everyone feel free to get up and we will take a few minutes to do some Qigong together. Okay. Let me adjust to this. I think that's okay. So first, we're going to stand with our feet about shoulder width apart. Okay. And then our knees will be slightly bent. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring our arms in front of us like we're hugging a giant ball. All right. And now we're going to slowly lower our hands until they're in front of our lower abdomen and our palms are facing up. Now, interlace your fingers and bring your hands up to the chest. And once they get up to the chest, we're going to flip our hands so that now they face out. And we're going to keep turning as we lift. And we're going to push up against the sky. And once you get up to the top, just look forward and straighten your legs. And now we will hold this for 2 seconds and slowly separate your hands and let them back down the side. And then put them back together, face up in front of your lower abdomen. So that's the movement. It's really simple. And then we're going to do this again and we'll just add in some breathing. So now interlace your fingers and take a deep breath in and breathe in as you push your hands up to the sky. Once you reach the top, just hold for 2 seconds and then exhale as you separate your hands and let them go down to the side. Okay, and we'll just do this 4 more times. So once again, interlace the fingers. Inhale as your hands go up to the sky. And push. Feel a nice stretch in the sides of the body. And exhale as you let your arms down the side. Okay. And interlace the fingers. Breathe in and push up. Once you reach the top, you can look forward. Make sure you straighten your legs. And exhale as your arms come down. And as your arms come down, you can bend your legs slightly again. Okay, just a couple more times. So inhale up, straighten legs, look forward. Once you reach the top, your arms should be right beside your ears. And then let your arms down. Exhale. All right, and we'll do it 2 more times. So inhale, bring the arms up. You might start to feel a little bit warm at this point, and exhale. And that's a good thing. It means that your chi is circulating in the body. All right, last one. We'll bring up our hands and inhale. Nice big stretch. And exhale, let your arms down to the sides. All right, and our hands are in front of our lower abdomen. And to finish this movement, we'll just bring our feet together and then rest your hands on your lower abdomen. And this area is called the dantian, which is where our chi, we store our chi here. So we always end Qigong here so that we can kind of recharge our battery here. All right. Good job, everyone. That was a little introduction to Qigong.
Now we should have a drink of tea.
Yeah, that would be nice. Okay, what's next? Oh, and then we actually have a little bit of a discussion next here. So the last part of this presentation, we're going to be talking about how TCM can make better futures. And we're curious to see if any of you have any ideas or thoughts on, how can TCM make a better world for us moving forward? Let us know in the chat box or in the Q&A.
Well, I think for sure, if you eat healthy, your body is, strong. If you experience like being exposed to any germs, like your body has the first defense, to protect you.
Yeah, that is really important. I think food is often like the first line of defense to help us build up that good foundation. And that way we can, when our own energy is strong, then, pathogens can't invade as easily. So I'm just going to read the chat here. Let's see. Okay. Making the connection between physical well-being with emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. Yeah, that's a good one because, I think it's only very recently that Western medicine is starting to see the connection between the mind and the body. But, Chinese medicine and other traditional cultures have recognized that connection, mind, body, spirit for a long time. So that's a really important piece that I think TCM can contribute to healthcare. And it can help us understand the feeling of balance in our bodies and how that could apply to the environment around us. Yeah, that's also a really good one, as a big part of Chinese medicine is about living in harmony with nature. And a lot of it comes from how we observe nature and the processes and cycles of nature to understand what happens in the human body and how the human body works. So if we can kind of understand what it's like to feel balanced, then we have that connection with the outer environment. Yeah, so thanks for sharing, you guys. Oh, we have a few more. Continuing the transference of knowledge from old to young generation, ensuring continuous care for the community, caring for oneself, can then lend to creating a solid foundation in order for us to care for our community further. Absolutely. Yeah, it really starts with ourselves, because if we're not well ourselves, we're not going to be able to serve our community. So Chinese medicine is really great for self-care, and then we can kind of transfer that to a larger community. And then, slowing down and wellness as a lifestyle instead of just medicating symptoms. I'm also thinking about how my mother took care of me after I gave birth and the cultural significance of that. Oh, 100%. One of the common kind of criticisms maybe of modern medicine is that, it's just about masking symptoms with medication. So one of the strengths, I think, of Chinese medicine is how, we can actually examine, okay, what is the cause? What's the root cause? And we need to slow down and reflect on that and, take steps in our own lifestyle to work towards better health. Wai Ling, I'm curious if you have anything to add about taking care of a woman after she gives birth, because you have mentioned you looked after your daughter when she gave birth, and what are some of the traditions that you did?
Yeah, one tradition was the ginger cooked in dark vinegar. It helps to clear the so-called any bad blood in the system.
Do they usually put like pork trotters in there too?
Yes, yeah, boiled eggs and then like pig hocks, because it's believed that the calcium dissolves in the bones, and then in the vinegar, and the new mother can drink the vinegar when they eat the ginger, and that again it helps the new mother to recover, regain the energy. Yeah, definitely ginger is really crucial. Like I remember for myself, I'll just cut up the ginger and fry it a little bit, no oil, and then mix it with rice. I mean, it be salt. I actually remember when I was little, my mom used sugar. Actually, it's very interesting taste, like ginger, rice, and a little bit sugar. It tastes good. And eggs, you could put an egg in it. Yeah, it's something very simple to do. I remember because when I have Catherine, I don't have family helping me. So I need to cook something very simple, but can help me recover. So ginger fried rice with eggs. Yeah.
Sounds yummy. Okay, I just want to be mindful of the time here. We just have about 12 minutes left, but I think we should be able to finish. Yeah, this is an excellent article. It basically talks about, it's written by Celine Chuang, and she writes really eloquently about this connection, between Chinatown and how the TCM meridians can orient us into a better way of living and relating with each other, and how we share space in cities. So we'll just leave a link maybe in the chat so you guys can read this essay on your own time. And we'll just kind of talk about the opportunities that we see for the future of TCM. So a big one is mental health. So TCM is really great for addressing a lot of mental health concerns, from trauma, addictions, and things like anxiety, depression, stress. These are all really prominent issues nowadays. And there's a lot that acupuncture, as well as herbal medicine, can help with that. And there's also a movement now towards kind of like group acupuncture or community acupuncture, where basically like in a large room, people sit around in a circle and they get acupuncture as a group. And that kind of group healing environment can be really helpful. And it also reduces barriers too. It's more affordable, it's more accessible. So this has been something that's coming up as more and more popular nowadays to address mental health concerns. Secondly, it can reduce kind of burden on the healthcare system. We know that acupuncture is really great at treating pain. And so this is a really big opportunity because I'm sure many of you have heard of the opioid crisis. And, a lot of people are, struggling to manage painful conditions, and medications can, there's a limit to how much you can use. So acupuncture can be a really great way to provide pain relief that is sustainable over time. And that can, take off a big burden from the healthcare system. And another big part of this is also the strength of Chinese medicine being able to address the root cause of issues. So a lot of like chronic issues, anything from migraines to IBS, to skin conditions, arthritis, allergies, asthma. Chinese medicine can do a lot of help for these kinds of chronic issues. And, it can help people get into better health and have a better quality of life, and ultimately reduce, their reliance on the healthcare system. And, everyone wins from that. And finally, there's a lot of opportunity for TCM to be a leader when it comes to decolonization. So in recent years, people are starting to see the destructive impact that colonization had on traditional cultures. And TCM is in a really unique position because we are basically like the only traditional medicine that is so well recognized. We have schools, that formally train people. We're a regulated profession. We have insurance that, cover acupuncture and even Chinese medicine herbs in some provinces. And so we're in this really unique position where we can be a leader and kind of helping other traditional medicines kind of develop and expand as well. I don't know if you had anything to add, Wai Ling.
I was just thinking maybe if you can talk about TCM actually encompasses the acupuncture, qigong, and the herbs, because I think there's a few pieces to it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I guess that's good to clarify. So TCM is this big umbrella term that covers quite a lot of different things. So it includes acupuncture, it includes herbal medicine, it also includes qigong, dietary therapy, and like a lot of other modalities like cupping or moxibustion, something called tuina, or it's a type of massage. So yeah, there's a lot of different techniques and healing methods that are all included in this umbrella term called TCM.
Yeah, and I agree with Brenda that a lot of insurance company, they covered acupuncture, massage, physiotherapy. And to me, with, as a Chinese person, seeing the Chinese medicine being acknowledged, respected, and be with the big system, so people can get the service and they can also get the benefit of some financial support from the insurance company. Like to me, I'm very happy to see that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, and we will just finish off the presentation with one last acupressure. So this one is on the leg, ST34. So if you guys straighten your leg and find your kneecap, and then just go to the top outer corner of the kneecap. So that's kind of right here, top outer corner. And then you're going to take 3 fingers and just go diagonally up and out from that corner. And then there's going to be a point right about here. And it should feel like a little bit sore when you press it. So this point is called Liang Qiu. Liang is kind of like a beam or a bridge. Qiu kind of means like a mound. So together it's kind of about, looking out from this mountain bridge. All right, so some physical things that it can help with. Of course, it can help with knee problems because it's so close to the knee. It can help with, it benefits the breasts, actually. It seems random, but the stomach channel actually goes up through the torso, all the way up to the eye. But when it goes through the torso, it actually travels through the breast. So this point can surprisingly help with breast problems. And it spiritually, this is another point that is more connecting, a way to connect with our ancestors. Because when we are on this mountain bridge, we can see further and more clearly. And I really want to kind of end on this note, on this word bridge, which I think is really important because a lot of us here today are what we would call huaqiao. So that's like a common term that means like Chinese bridge, and it's often used to mean like Chinese diaspora anywhere in the world. And we literally are kind of like a bridge because we're very well versed in both Eastern and Western ways of life. And So we have this really unique position to be able to, bridge the gap between different cultures. And sometimes, the work that we do, it can seem like an uphill battle. Even in the work that I do in Chinese medicine, sometimes it can feel difficult to get recognized by people in Western medicine, but it's important not to turn it into kind of like an us versus them kind of situation, and more of being able to see that, that the opposites can also be united, and to see the wholeness in everything. So that's it. Wai Ling, did you have anything to add?
I just want to say the indigenous medicine also has some similarities with the Chinese, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, say that yarrow, the white flowers, they're good for stopping nose bleeding. Also, you can use as dressing for cuts, right? And then the rose hip tea with a lot of antitoxin, is that what they call it? Yeah, it's also very good. And those are things we can see in our surroundings. I know in Edmonton, I see those a lot. So I wonder, if somebody say, oh, I don't have time to go to Chinatown, but I happen to have this rose hip bush, close to my house, so maybe something they can consider, to get the rose hip to make rose hip tea, and also the indigenous peoples enjoying the rose hip tea, using yarrow for dressing, nose bleeding, the kind of thing.
Thanks for adding that, Wai Ling. I think it's so important. I think there's a lot of opportunity that we have in Chinese medicine to learn from Indigenous medicine as well. Because one of the challenges is that, a lot of Chinese herbs, we have to import it from China. Yeah. But all around us here in Canada, we are surrounded by so many native medicinal plants that we don't know how to use. And I think there's a lot of room that we can learn, from Indigenous culture on how we can use that, anything in our backyard as medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Should we check anybody got questions?
Yeah. So, before we close, we'd just like to thank Center A for hosting. And then, let's see if there's any questions in the chat box.
I think there was a question earlier about the lunar calendar. I think this is related to what you were showing at the very beginning about the solar terms. So maybe this question is about, does the lunar calendar matter for when we're practicing TCM? How do we take that into account?
Yeah, I saw the question, but I wasn't sure what the intention of asking the question is, whether the person mean, how does the lunar calendar work? If that is, it's very similar to the indigenous moon, that we have this new moon, and then half moon and full moon, and then gradually become smaller. I know that some people, they are practicing some Taoism custom. On the 15th day of the month, they don't eat any meat to practice some kind of only vegetarian food. So I don't know what the question is about. If the person can clarify for us. One thing I can add is the Chinese month is 30 days a month, right? So after so many years, we have a leap month, and then we have a leap year. So that's something different from the Western calendar.
Oh, I think she responded. She said, sure, I was just thinking about how the lunar calendar connects to the 13 moons in Indigenous culture.
Tell you, I don't know, but I think it's really related to the season. And also one thing we need to consider is the geographic position of North America, even within the Canada, the Eastern Canada, the Indigenous, they may have different terms, describing the moons as well. So I don't know how they really align with the Chinese 12 months or the 24 solar terms, but it will be interesting concept to explore, to see how they really match up or not match up. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. If folks have any last minute quick questions, feel free to quickly put that in the chat box or the Q&A. But I wanted to thank our panelists, Auntie Wai Ling and Brenda. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and family stories and a little bit of history lessons as well. And to our lovely audience today, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experiences and thoughts. And it's been so wholesome and rich and nourishing. So thank you, everyone. So Wai Ling and Brenda, where can we, if we wanted to learn more about your work, are there links that we could do that?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, I think Aya had shared my website. If you guys are on Instagram, here are our handles. Yeah, I'm just vitaminqi.com. Yeah, and Wai Ling, is there any way they can get a hold of you?
I think you can send it to Aiya. I think Lee would monitor any incoming messages.
Yeah, sounds good. So you can follow Wai Ling at Aiya Collective on Instagram.
I'd like to apologize that the sound system is not very good. I just don't know how to fix it. Yeah, sorry.
It's all good. Thank you so much. And we'll have, so this webinar was recorded and we'll put that out on our YouTube channel, and we'll also post on our social media when that's available. And I think we'll provide captioning as well in the video. So yeah, thank you. Thank you all so much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for attending.